Welcome back to part 2 of my top 10 overrated movies. Number 5 is Spider-Man 2. Now, people before Spider-Man Homecoming came out were saying that this is the best Spider-Man movie. And a lot of people I know and a lot of people online were, and even some of the critics say, oh, this is the best Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man. And quite honestly, I think it's okay, but it's not the best. For me, that was Amazing Spider-Man 1. I think Amazing Spider-Man 1 is better than any of the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. And I know a lot of people don't really like Amazing Spider-Man, but in Spider-Man 2, it has a really cool action sequence with Peter Parker, with the Spider-Man and Doc Ock. But for the rest of the movie, I mean, the acting is like 1960s comics kind of acting, and it doesn't really land with me. And Mary Jane's fiance, I mean, he's completely forgettable. I mean, I think the only thing we know about him is, like, I think he's an astronaut, but he has no personality whatsoever. He's basically like a Disney prince who has no personality. And some of the choices in this movie are just so weird. And especially when, like, Harry says to Doc Ock, you know, follow Peter, but don't hurt him. He's my friend. What does Doc Ock do? He throws a freaking car at him. I was like, okay, that would... If he wasn't Spider-Man, he would have been dead, and then you would have never gotten your element that you wanted. Not to mention, they really did the whole, like, split personality thing with Doc Ock and the tentacles that he has. They did the same thing with Norman Osborn and Green Goblin, and I don't think it works with Doc Ock, though. It's kind of, I don't know, miscast in a way, or miswritten. And I like I said, I think there's a cool action sequence, but other than that, a lot of this stuff is not that great. Number 4 is Ant-Man. I hate Ant-Man. I hate Ant-Man so much. And when people are like, oh, it's such a fun movie, it's so good, it's fun, it's like, I don't think it's fun. I think it sucks. I think Ant-Man is a 2-bit cheap carbon copy of an Iron Man clone. And Paul Rudd, I know some people, they say Paul Rudd is really good, but I've only seen him in a few movies, and he has been bad in all of them. He really comes across as he's not caring, or he's not trying in his movies, and the character, he's not that likable. He's really trying to do everything he can to be as charming or as charismatic as Robert Downey Jr., and he fails absolutely in all those elements. And when he tries to do that whole dramatic thing with Anthony, I facepalm, because I was like, are you serious? You're gonna give a freaking ant a name and then be sad that it's dead? It's like, what the hell? Not to mention the villain is terrible. It's one of the worst villains that Marvel has ever had. And that, not to mention Crowbar. That was so bad. Even they called it out. I was like, and just because you call it out doesn't make it bad. Oh, that was just, everything about this movie. And then I went into the movie thinking, like, please don't suck and be the last and be the only good thing, the ending, the after credit scene. What happened? The movie sucked, and the only good scene was the after credit scene. It's like, screw you, Ant-Man, you suck. But for some reason, people like it. It's like, I don't get it. To me, this is the worst MCU movie. Yes, worse than Incredible Hulk or Thor: The Dark World. You may think those movies are bad. This one's worse, in my opinion. And it's just, ugh, I can't stand it whatsoever. Ugh. Number 3 is The Matrix. Now, the reason why I think this movie is overrated is because I think too many people get stoned and think this movie is philosophical and really, really deep and profound. Like, there's books of The Matrix and philosophy and all that stuff. And to me, some of that philosophical stuff really comes across like a sophomore philosophy class, especially for people that I've known that have talked about it. They just came across like they were stoned. It's like, what if we're in the Matrix and everything's not real and we're just in an illusion? And it's like, okay, what drugs are you on? Stop right now. I'm taking you home. And yes, we can stop for burgers on the way if you want. Or burritos, whichever one you want. But you shut up. It's a cool action movie. I will say that. Some of the effects are dated, but the action itself is pretty damn good. And it's a good action movie with something added on top of you're basically able to manipulate the world around you because it's not real. And it's pretty cool. The second and third movies, they really took a dive on it. But even when you watch the first one, you can see the pretentiousness coming across in some of the characters that would come out later in the trilogy. I mean, the Wachowskis were just ego-stroking themselves throughout at least half of this movie. And to me, it's like, yeah, no. No. Good action movie, but not as philosophical as people think. Number 2 is The Sixth Sense. And the reason why I think this movie is overrated is a couple of reasons. One, because before last year, people were just saying, oh, The Sixth Sense is great, all the other movies suck. And there's a movie in there that I think is better than The Sixth Sense. People just say, oh yeah, The Sixth Sense, that's good. Yeah, and all the Shyamalan movies, yeah, they suck. But to me, that's not true. And I want to get into it, but there's another list I want to do. But I think that Sixth Sense is pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of good atmosphere and there's some good storytelling in it. But with the twist, though, once you see it, the second time you're not paying attention to the movie, I don't think. You're mainly just trying to pick on all the little stuff about, oh, yeah, this explains, no, so he was actually doing this. Oh, he was that. And here, this doesn't, oh, wait, that does make sense now. And you reconfigure it, but you're not really paying attention to the story. Especially with the way it starts. And then the point is, okay, now we know this. Let's dissect the movie instead of actually watching it. I think too many people do that. And they also do the whole Sixth Sense and everything else. And to me, that's not good because I think there is a better Shyamalan movie. And I will talk about that at a later date. But yeah, I think Sixth Sense, pretty good, but it's not M. Night's best movie. It's not. So, but the number one overrated movie, in my opinion, is The Fellowship of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings. Sorry about that. Yeah, Fellowship. First part of the Lord of the Rings movies. This movie, especially when you compare it to The Hobbit, the first Hobbit movie, An Unexpected Journey, they're actually pretty similar. Very slow. There's an action sequence in the middle. Then it slows down a lot. And then there's a scene with the birds. And there's a scene where they show Gollum, or in The Hobbit they just show him, but in the Fellowship they mention him, but they show him very little bit. But I think this movie is really, really the slowest one and really the hardest one to get through, especially when you watch all three of them back to back and you go for the extended edition, which makes them almost 11 hours. I think the movie is, they get better, but man, the first one is kind of a slog to get through, especially when people, it's like, oh, Unexpected Journey, The Hobbit, oh, that first movie is so boring, it's so dull. Well, to me, the first one's kind of dull too, and Merry and Pippin are kind of a-holes, and they kind of suck. They get better in the later movies, but in that first one, they kind of suck. And how they get away in a couple instances is kind of dumb, as far as I'm concerned. It wouldn't have been out of place in the Hobbit trilogy that people hate so much. And so, yeah, I think the movie is okay, but especially when people talk crap about the first Hobbit movie, you can say the exact same thing about the first Lord of the Rings movie. And especially one thing that the Hobbit movie doesn't have, those extreme close-ups on people's faces when they're just talking, especially when, Gandalf was saying goodbye and he gets that real close-up. It's like, whoa, dude, back up. I can smell the weed on your breath. Just, whoa, whoo. What have you been smoking? Get away. Like, go. Yeah, the first movie's kind of boring. Especially that first half of it. There's some funny moments, but to me, people are like, oh, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, it's so great, so cinematic, it's worthy of its Academy Awards. Honestly, I think the Jedi movies are better as far as like what should have gotten an Academy Award. Mainly because they're not 11 hours long. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? What's the most overrated movie in your opinion? Let me know down in the comments, and hopefully soon I'll have the other half of this type of list I've been wanting to do for a while. And in December I've got something kind of fun I wanted to do. So until then, take care. Bye.